It's a new day for the world to see. There's a hope for you and me. It's a new day for the world to see. There's a hope for you and me. Yeah. It's a new day for the world to see. There's a hope for you.
Hi, we're back again with No Kill Movement. We're talking to Kathy Pobloskie, and Kathy is the co-founder and director of Lost Dogs of America. They provide no-cost resources to the owners of lost dogs to take a chance of locating and be successfully reunited. And they also support animal control and shelter systems, increasing the chance of finding an owner once the dog is in their care. Welcome today, Kathy. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
So we wanted to talk a little bit. We've been talking a lot about the American Pets Alive piloting social services model of sheltering. We previously talked about managed intake, and a related subject is fostering. Fostering as they're using the tagline "fostering as the future," and the idea is that we've had for 150 years. We go out, we capture animals, we bring them to the shelter, whether they're strays or whether they're people's own dogs that are lost. That's the way we've been doing it. And the idea is to reduce the number of animals in the shelter at any time, especially if those animals don't need to be in the shelter. And so one of the ideas is to make sure that you have a robust foster program and you get those animals as quickly to foster as possible. In the COVID crisis, there was a wild success with Pima County Animal Shelter in Arizona, Austin Pets Alive, and Austin successfully doing this. They had a 50%, I think 50% or less capacity at both shelters through that process. And it was because they reached out to the community, and now they proved it could be done. I think back on the we used to do a just one day every year event. I don't know if you ever did that, Kathy. Did you? Yeah, you did that. And you know, the idea of that is if you could do it just one day, you could do it a second day, right? And that's what they're saying now. If we could do this during this COVID crisis, can't we do it, you know, going further? So what do you think of that? Do you see fostering as the future really being the best way to serve communities or serving pets in the way that we actually shelter them today?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that, I mean, that has always been such an important part of the no-kill equation. And other than return to owner, which is always, been my pet peeve, foster a good foster network, because I think has always been a big shortcoming in a lot of shelters. And I don't exactly know why. From just conversations with people that are in sheltering, it always seems to boil down to getting some good training in place, some good foster, training in place, and having a good coordinator to do that. So I think it's a lack of people skills more than anything.
With some of the shelters or rescues that you actually work with, do you see them making it difficult for people to foster?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely difficult for them to foster, and then just difficult to get the same sort of adoption policies put in place once the dog is in foster, if that makes sense. So you may have a shelter with very open adoption policies, right? Very good adoption policies. Everybody, we should be adopting out more dogs. But then once it's in a foster home, there's again that emotional attachment that comes to the dog, and they want to really pick and choose who's going to get the dog, and they take. I hope I'm making myself clear.
The foster person, or the shelter.
The foster person.
Foster person winds up being a barrier to actually getting the dog adopted, because they're like, no, I know this dog.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the benefit that I always see of foster homes, and I've said this for years, is you get more of a report card on the dog from the foster family. You get more of, I have a friend that likes to say is you get a better resume, and there's much more chance of the dog being, crate trained, potty trained when it's in a foster home than when it's in a shelter. So I think the there's a chance for less returns because the new adopters got a little bit better idea of what they're getting. If they have a really good, open, honest dialogue with the foster family, and the dog is already successfully living in a home. So
Right. Right. Yeah, you know the behavior, because when when they are in the shelter, you don't actually know the behavior of that animal, cat or dog or ferret, I guess. Even, once they go to the house, it's like, well, I don't know, he's been in the kennel for 3 weeks, so you
right.
know, and depending on the protocol of the shelter, of course, is how well was that dog taken out of the
Exactly.
kennel to go outside and get used to the fact, no, you don't go here, you go there, that kind of thing. So that's pretty interesting. Do you see
Yeah.
any real difference between smaller and larger organizations for fostering? Are there any things that you see repeated in large ones compared to small ones, or is it a mixed bag?
Well, again, that's not probably really my area of expertise, but I would say that I think that when you hear about these huge foster networks, I just wonder, they must delegate several levels of assistance, because when I hear complaints from foster homes, again, just anecdotally to me, is usually because they feel like they're not getting any support from either the foster home or the foster manager of the program or the shelter. So, they're having a behavior issue with the dog at 10 o'clock at night. What do they do? And they need somebody, they need some support. So I would just assume that the smaller organizations probably can get a better handle on that. But I'm sure I hear big organizations are doing it really well right now. So kudos to
Right.
them.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I was wondering what you saw in the field. But, here, I think what I've seen in Colorado is it really just comes down to whether they really embrace a foster organization and actually get the numbers. And as long as they have them, they seem to be pretty successful.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I think our smaller organizations have a harder time starting those programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Maybe it's just a resource issue that they do that. And then, uh, do you see anything? Do you see any difference in um, fostering between urban and rural areas? I know you cover kind of a large swath. I don't know how much you see out there in the communities that you serve.
Well, I think like in Wisconsin, the rural shelters have the capacity generally to look after the animals that are coming in. So I would say that very few of the rural shelters have really robust foster programs because they have the ability to house the animals. So, if I think the benefit would be getting those animals out of the shelter and into a home so that it has more of a resume when when an adopter comes and looks at it. But right now I see a lot of them just not seeing the need to have a robust foster program because they've got the room, they've got the space. So, why is it necessary?
With some of the organizations that you work with, I realize that in Wisconsin, I believe you said that the law is that the animal must go to the shelter if it's a stray, right? But obviously, those laws are different across the U.S. Do some of the lost dogs organizations outside of Wisconsin, do you know, do they send animals to foster without sending them to the shelter anyway?
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, many places do, right? It's absolutely okay, and sometimes even encouraged for what we call a good Samaritan or the finder to house the dog, and then that's where problems can arise because nobody's really overseeing that the finder is doing all the correct things to try to find the owner.
Right. So yeah, so they allow that, but then they don't put in a policy or procedure to kind of
Right,
limit what actually happens there. Okay. Um,
absolutely.
okay, that's interesting. Well, this was great. This was a great talk, Kathy. Thank you so much for talking to us today. And we'll see you soon, everybody. And we'll be back with Kathy with another subject later on, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.